to share with you today. Sit back, listen, and enjoy. In the depths of a bitterly cold December, my mother decided it simply wouldn't do to go through the holidays without a nativity set. It was 1943 in a small town in North Dakota. My father worked for an oil company during my growing up years. We moved around a lot for his job. At some point between one move and another, we lost our family's little manger scene. Happily, Mother found another one at the local 5 and dime for only $3.99. When my brother and I helped her unpack the set, we found 2 figurines of the baby Jesus. Mother frowned. Someone must have packed this wrong, she said, counting out the pieces. We have 1 Joseph, 1 Mary, 3 wise men, 3 shepherds, 2 lambs, a donkey, a cow, an angel, and 2 babies. Oh dear, I suppose some set down at the store is missing baby Jesus. Hey, that's great, Mom, my brother said with a laugh. Now we have twins. Mother wouldn't have a bit of it. You 2 run right back down to the store and tell the manager that we have an extra Jesus. Oh, Mom. Go on with you now. Tell him to put a sign on the remaining boxes saying that the set is missing a baby Jesus. If it's missing a baby Jesus, call 7162. She smiled. I'll give you each a penny for some candy. And don't forget your mufflers. It's freezing cold out there. The manager copied down my mother's message, placed it on a cardboard sign by the boxes that read, "If you're missing baby Jesus, call 7162. All week, we waited for a call to come. What was a nativity set without a main attraction? Each time the phone rang, my mother would say, "I'll bet that's about Jesus." But it never was. With increasing exasperation, my father tried to explain that the figurine could be missing from a set anywhere for that matter. After all, packing errors occurred all the time. He suggested we just put the extra Jesus back in a box and forget about it. Back in a box, I wailed. What a terrible thing to do to baby Jesus. And at Christmas time, too. Someone will surely call, my mother reasoned. We'll just keep the babies together in the manger until we find the owner. That made my brother and me happy. It was special to look into that little manger and see 2 Christ children side by side, gazing up into the adoring eyes of Mary. And was that a surprised look on Joseph's face? But the days went by and no one called. When we still hadn't heard from anyone by 5 o'clock Christmas Eve, my mother insisted that Daddy just run down to the store to see if there were any nativity sets left. You can see them right through the window over on the counter, she said. If they're all gone, I'll know someone is bound to call tonight. Run down to the store, my father thundered. Ethel, it's 15 below 0 out there. Oh, Daddy, I said, we'll just go with you, won't we, Tommy? Tommy nodded vigorously. We'll bundle up good, and we can look at all the decorations on the way. My father blew out a long sigh and headed for the front closet. I can't believe I'm doing this, he muttered. Every time the phone rings, everybody yells at me to see if it's about Jesus. And now I'm off on the coldest night of the year to peek in some store window to see if he's there or not there. Daddy muttered all the way down the block in the cold, still air while my brother and I raced each other to the store. The streets were empty and silent, but behind each lighted window, we knew the families were gathering around Christmas trees and manger scenes and fireplaces and tables laden with tasty treats. I was the first to reach the store, where the colored lights flickered along the edge of the frosty pane. Pushing my nose up against the glass, I peered into the darkened store. "They're all gone, Daddy," I yelled. "Every set must be sold." "Hooray!" my brother cheered, catching up with me. "The mystery will be solved tonight." My father, who had seen no logical reason to run, remained some yards behind us. When he heard our tidings, he turned on his heel and started for home. Inside the house once more, we were surprised to see only one baby Jesus in the manger. Where was the twin? For that matter, where was Mother? She had vanished too. Dad was unperturbed. "Someone must have called," he reasoned, pulling off his boots. "She must have gone out to deliver the figurine. You kids get busy stringing those popcorn strands for the tree, and I'll wrap your mother's present." We had almost completed one strand when the phone rang. "You get it, Gene," my father called. "Tell him we're already found a home for Jesus." My brother gave me a quick, eager look. Our mystery would be solved at last. But the telephone call didn't solve any mystery at all. It created a much bigger one. It wasn't my mother on the phone with instruction. It was my mother on the phone with instructions for us to come to 205 Chestnut Street immediately and to bring 3 blankets, a box of cookies, and some milk. My father was incredulous. "I can't believe it," he groaned, retrieving his boots for the second time that evening. "What in Sam Hill has she gotten us into?" He paused. 205 Chestnut. Why, that's 8 blocks away. Wrap that milk up good in the blankets, or it'll turn to ice by the time we get there. Why in the name of heaven can't we just get on with Christmas? It's probably below 20 below out there now, and the wind's picking up. Of all the crazy things to do on a night like this. Tommy and I didn't mind at all. It was Christmas Eve, and we were in the middle of an adventure. We sang carols at the top of our lungs all the way to Chestnut Street. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. My father carrying his bundle of blankets, milk, and cookies, looked for all the world like St. Nicholas with his arms full of goodies. My brother called back to him, "Hey, Dad, let's pretend we're looking for a place to stay, just like Joseph and Mary." "Let's pretend we're in Bethlehem where it's probably 65 degrees in the shade right now," my father answered. The house on 205 Chestnut Street turned out to be the darkest one on the block. One tiny light burned in the living room, and the moment we set foot on the front porch steps, my mother opened the door and shouted, "They're here! They're here! Oh, thank God you got here, Ray! You kids take those blankets into the living room and wrap up the little ones on the floor. I'll take the milk and cookies." "Ethel, would you mind telling me what's going on here?" my father huffed. "We've just hiked through sub-zero weather with wind in our faces all the way." "Never mind all that now," my mother interrupted. "There's no heat in this house, and this young mother doesn't know what to do. Her husband walked out on her. Those poor little children will have a very bleak Christmas. So don't you complain. I told her you could fix that oil furnace in a jiffy." Well, that stopped my father right in his tracks. My mother strode off to the kitchen to warm the milk while my brother and I wrapped up the little children who huddled together on the floor. The distraught young mother, wringing her hands, explained to my father that her husband had run off, taking bedding, clothing, and almost every piece of furniture. But she'd been doing all right, she explained, until the furnace broke down. "I've been doing washing and ironing for folks and cleaning the five and dime store," she said. "I saw your number every day there on those boxes on the counter. Then when the furnace went out, that number kept going through my mind. 7162. 7162. Said on the box that if a person was missing Jesus, they should call you. That's how I knew you was good Christian people, willing to help folks. I figured that maybe you'd help me too. So I stopped at the grocery store tonight and called your missus. I'm not missing Jesus, mister, because I surely love the Lord. But I am missing heat. Me and the kids ain't got no bedding, no warm clothes. I got a few Christmas toys for them, but I got no money to fix that furnace." "It's okay," my father said gently. "You called the right number. Now, let's see here. You got a little oil burner there in the dining room. Shouldn't be too hard to fix. Probably just a clogged flue. I'll look it over and see what it needs." My mother came into the living room carrying a plate of cookies and set them before the children. I noticed the figure of the baby Jesus, our twin, lying in the center of the tray. There was no Mary, no Joseph, no wise men or shepherds, just Jesus. The children stared wide-eyed with wonder at the plate of cookies my mother set before them. One of the littlest ones woke up from under the blanket. Seeing all the strangers in his house, he puckered up and began to cry. My mother swooped him up in her arms and began to sing to him. Lone shepherd's garden, angels sing. Mother crooned while the baby wailed. Haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. She went on singing, oblivious to the child's cries. She danced the baby around the room until finally, in spite of himself, he settled down again. You hear that, Chester? That young woman said to another child. That nice lady is singing about the Lord Jesus. He ain't ever gonna walk out on us. Why, he sent these people to us just to fix our furnace and blankets. And now we've got blankets too. Oh, we'll be warm tonight. Jesus saves, that's what he does. My father finished his work on the oil burner, wiped his hands on his muffler. I've got it going now, ma'am, but you need more oil. I'll make a few calls tonight when I get home, and we'll get you some. Yes, sir, he said with a smile. You called the right number. When Daddy figured the furnace was going strong enough once more, our family bundled up and made our way home under a clear, starry heaven. My father didn't say a thing about the cold weather. I could tell he was turning things around in his mind all the way home. As soon as we set foot inside the front door, he strode over to the telephone and dialed the number. Ed? Ed, this is Ray. How are you? Yes, Merry Christmas to you too. Say, Ed, we have a kind of unusual situation here tonight. I know you've got that pickup truck, and I was wondering if we could round up some of the boys and find a Christmas tree, you know, and a couple of things for... The rest of the conversation was lost in a blur as my brother and I ran to our rooms and began pulling clothes out of the closet and toys off the shelf. My mother checked through our belongings for sizes and selected some of the games she said might do. Then she added some of her own sweaters and slacks to our stack. It was a Christmas Eve like no other. Instead of going to bed in a snug, warm house, dreaming of a pile of presents to open on Christmas morning, we were up way past our bedtime, wrapping gifts for the little family we'd only just met. The men my father had called found oil for the furnace, bedding, 2 chairs, and 3 lamps. They made 2 trips to 205 Chestnut before the night was done. On the second trip, he let us go too. Even though it must have been 30 below by then, my father let us ride in the back of the truck with all our gifts stacked all around us. My brother's eyes danced in the starlight. Without saying anything, we both knew Christmas could never be the same after this. The extra Jesus in our home hadn't been ours to keep at all. He was for someone else, for a desperate family in a dark little house on Chestnut Street. Someone who needed Jesus as much as we did. And we got to take him there. The end.
Thank you so much, and we're going to stand and sing Joy to the World. 199 in your hymn book. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Receive her Let every heart prepare Him room. Heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills and plains, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. No sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the crown. He comes to make His blessings flow, far as the curse is found, far as the curse is found,